Everyone online spent the last 48 hours choosing her side, and after watching every single minute of what this man did on his own livestream, I need you to hear me on something. They chose right, and the receipts are going to make your skin crawl. Welcome back. Today's episode is genuinely hard to sit through, so I'm not going to waste your time with a warm-up. Blueface opened this stream by announcing he was a changed man, a kind man, a patient man. And then, over the next several hours, he threatened his girlfriend's father, called her a prostitute in front of thousands of people, and made his stepson cry on camera, all while the baby she delivered days earlier sat in the next room. Stay with me, because the part where he diagnoses himself with postpartum depression to excuse all of it is something you truly will not believe until you hear it. Let's get into every single thing that happened, in order, because the order is what makes it so disturbing. So here's how the day begins. Blueface turns on the camera and makes a proclamation. Today, he tells his audience, there will be no negativity. He's not going to tolerate anybody insulting the mother of his child. Not in the chat, not in his presence, not anywhere. He's framing himself as the protector now, the guardian. And he delivers this little speech with total sincerity, like a man who has genuinely turned over a new leaf, like the internet hasn't been watching him do the exact opposite for weeks. And look, I want to be fair here. If someone says they're changing, you give them the window. You watch. That's what everyone did. The problem is the window stayed open for roughly 11 minutes. Because Blueface is hungry. Breakfast is taking too long. Nevaeh, who, remember, gave birth less than a week ago, is apparently not moving at the speed he requires, and you can watch the patience drain out of him in real time. He calls her phone. She doesn't answer. She sends him to voicemail. And the brand new man, the nice man, the pleasant stream man, immediately mutters to his audience that this is typical. Typical. She's recovering from delivery and caring for a newborn, and the first real test of his transformation lasts about as long as a commercial break. But hold that thought, because what happens next tells you everything about how this household actually runs. Blueface doesn't get up. He doesn't go check on anyone. He summons an employee. He literally calls out for one of the guys who works around the house, and the man comes sprinting in from off-camera like his number was just called at the draft. Blueface tells him to get the stream equipment loaded and ready, and the guy is practically vibrating with enthusiasm to be useful. And I'm watching this thinking, notice the difference. When Blueface tells a man to do something, it's instant. Yes sir, on it, done. When he asks anything of the woman who just delivered his child, it's a complaint segment. That's not an accident. That's the entire relationship in one frame, and the day has barely started. Now we get to the kitchen, and this is the moment the clip pages ran with, because on the surface it plays sweet. Blueface is with the kids, and he decides to make a promise out loud, on camera, to his little boy. He tells the child that he's not going to cheat on his mother. For the rest of the year. The kid looks at him, and I want you to sit with this, the child says no. A 4-year-old heard that promise and said no. That is the most honest review of Blueface's character on the entire internet, and it came from someone who still believes in Santa Claus. But wait, because it gets worse. Blueface doesn't laugh it off. He negotiates. He tells this child that when 2027 comes around, well, then it's time to run. He's explaining his cheating timeline to a toddler. On stream. Voluntarily. And the chat is just eating it up like this is comedy, and not a man casually informing his family that his commitment comes with an expiration date circled on a calendar. Keep that promise in your pocket. Mark it. Because everything that happens in the next 2 hours is going to make that moment age like milk in the sun. So the family loads up to go to the newborn's doctor appointment. And I do want to acknowledge the framing here, because Blueface people will tell you, look, he came along. He's involved. He's a present father. He said so himself, repeatedly, into his own camera, which he is holding. And they drive over, and they park, and Nevaeh gets out of the car. She gets the newborn out. She manages the toddler. She's carrying the bag. She is days removed from giving birth, doing a full family logistics operation in a parking lot, and Blueface is just sitting there, watching her through the windshield. So she asks the obvious question. Are you coming in with us? And this man looks at her like she just asked him to donate a kidney to a stranger. Why would he do that? He wants to know. He's genuinely offended by the concept. And then he delivers the explanation, and I'm not paraphrasing the spirit of this. This is the actual logic he offers on camera. He says the two of them can't both be inside an enclosed space, because he needs to remain outside to make sure there are no dangers. He is protecting her. From the parking lot of a pediatrician's office. In the middle of the day. He has cast himself as the perimeter security of a well-baby checkup. Let's just walk through how insulting this is, because it's almost elegant in its laziness. Nobody is pulling up on a 5-day-old's doctor visit. There is no threat. There is no perimeter. There is a woman who just gave birth, juggling an infant carrier, a toddler, and a diaper bag, walking through a heavy door alone while a grown man sits in an air-conditioned car inventing a security threat so he doesn't have to hold the door. And when she understandably, mildly, almost politely, throws a little sarcasm his way about what a wonderful father he is, suddenly she's the problem. Suddenly she's rude. He drove there with her, in the same car, and acted like escorting his own newborn into a medical appointment was a request from the concierge. And here's the thing that should genuinely unsettle you. This is the version of events he chose to broadcast. This is Blueface showing you Blueface at his most justified. If this is the highlight reel, imagine the director's cut. Now, you might think the parking lot incident is just one bad moment. One cranky morning. Fine. But what Blueface does next is he opens his mouth and builds an entire philosophy on top of it. He tells his audience that people shouldn't fault Nevaeh for being slow or dense, because, and this is his framework, not mine, all women are dumb. That's the direct thesis. He then clarifies, generously, that he's simply so intelligent that everyone looks dumb standing next to him, so it's not personal, it's just the natural order of things. He said this out loud, into a camera, as a defense mechanism, sincerely believing it made him sound better. Let me ask you something, and I want you to actually answer it in the comments, because this is the question of the day. If a man believes all women are unintelligent, his words, and he has never, not once, said a single positive thing about any woman on any stream, at what point does the internet get to stop pretending this is a personality quirk and start calling it what it is? Because here's where my patience runs out. Blueface isn't confused. Blueface isn't misspeaking. This is a worldview he's broadcasting to an audience of young men who are absorbing it. And the moment that proves it beyond argument is coming up, but first we have to talk about what he did when he caught himself being almost human for a second. Because there's a brief window here where the mask slips in the other direction. Blueface admits, midstream, that maybe he's not the world's greatest parent. Maybe. But he's not horrible, he says. He's not a monster. And then, and this is the part that made me actually pause the footage, he invites the audience to hold him accountable. He says, and I want this on the record, if you ever see me doing something that isn't parent-like, something that's affecting everybody, please let me know. Please. He's asking. On camera. Well, since he asked. The internet didn't have to think hard, because the footage already exists. This is the same man who was seen swinging a small child around by his ankles until there was blood. The same man filmed yanking a baby by the arm. Those aren't rumors from a hater blog, those are clips he put into the world himself. And now he's standing in the ruins of his own track record asking to be notified if anyone notices anything concerning. Sir, the notifications have been going off for months. Everybody got the alert. The only person who hasn't acknowledged it is you. And the audience knows it, which is why that clip is already everywhere. And here's where it gets truly surreal, because Blueface then pivots to explaining why he can't do normal family activities in the first place. The reason he can't go into appointments, can't go grocery shopping, can't do any of it, fame. He's too famous. He'd be swarmed, mobbed, bombarded by fans. He paints this picture of a man who can't step outside without the public descending on him, and he says it with a straight face while live streaming to an audience he apparently thinks has never been outside. So let me offer a completely free observation. If you remove the 50 chains, put on a regular hoodie, and stop traveling with 3 men pointing cameras at your own face, almost nobody is going to notice you. Because here's the secret about how the public actually works. People don't recognize celebrities. They recognize entourages. They see a camera crew orbiting one guy and think, oh, that must be somebody, let me get a picture just in case. The fame isn't creating the cameras. The cameras are creating the fame. And I need you to remember the scene in the parking lot, Blueface, the untouchable superstar, the man too famous to hold a door, because later in this exact same day, that entire story collapses in the funniest way possible, and he does not take it well. But first, Blueface decides to get reflective again. He tells the chat he understands Nevaeh is adjusting to a new life. She's not used to the spotlight like he is. He doesn't want to be harsh on her. He doesn't want to curse her out. And you're sitting there thinking, okay, that's growth, that's something, and then he finishes the sentence. The reason he curses her out, he explains, is that she tries him. She knows what she's doing. She knows exactly how he is by now. Let me translate that from abuser to English. He's saying the outbursts are her fault. She provokes them. By existing. By quietly bonding with her newborn. By minding her own business on her own bed. That's the provocation. And the most insulting part is he genuinely believes the audience can't see the mechanism. But we can, because he broadcasts it. He records himself storming into rooms where she's doing absolutely nothing, lighting her up 40 times in a row, and then the second she reacts like a human being, suddenly it's relax, relax. Why are you freaking out? Is it the postpartum? Snap out of it. He manufactures the fire and then mocks her for being warm. And still, somehow, we're the crazy ones for noticing. Because when the chat pushes back, when thousands of people watching in real time say, hey, maybe lay off the woman who just had your baby, Blueface has an answer for that too. He calls everyone crazy. He says the audience is always rushing to her side, always blind to what she's really doing, always on her no matter what. He calls himself the victim of a biased crowd. A narcissist? Him? Y'all are crazy, he says. And this is where I have to slow down, because this sentence deserves its own spotlight. He claims we don't see what she does off camera. Except, he's the one holding the camera. Every day. All day. We see exactly what she does, because he documents it. She sits, she feeds the baby, she minds her business, and then he enters the frame and detonates. The evidence isn't hidden. It's monetized. It's uploaded. The man is running a 24-hour surveillance operation on himself and using the footage as his defense. I've genuinely never seen anything like it. And before anyone in the comments reaches for the usual shield, it's just content. It's just entertainment. They're both in on it. Understand something. She didn't write this episode. She spent it carrying a newborn through doors he wouldn't open. If this is a performance, only one of them agreed to star in it, and the other one keeps asking him to stop talking like that. On camera. Repeatedly. That's not a bit. That's a distress signal with good lighting. Now, the appointment is over. Nevaeh comes back to the car alone, through the door, with the baby, the toddler, and the bag, if you're keeping score, and they settle in for the drive home. And this is where the day goes from ugly to genuinely alarming. Because Nevaeh makes a catastrophic mistake. She reads the chat. Out loud. She mentions that somebody in the stream asked how much it would cost to book her for an appearance on a stream. That's it. That's the crime. A viewer asked a booking question, and she read it out loud in the car. And I need you to brace yourself for what Blueface does with this, because it is a masterclass in manufacturing a catastrophe out of thin air. He takes that innocent question, runs it through whatever machinery is rattling around in his head, and announces that what she really asked, what she meant, was how much she should charge to go to another man's house. He invented an entire scenario, assigned it to her, convicted her of it, and delivered sentencing, all in about 9 seconds. She didn't say anything like that. Nobody said anything like that. He built it out of nothing and then punished her for it like it was a confession. And then he goes somewhere so much worse. He starts pricing her. He tells her in front of thousands of viewers, days after she delivered his child, that she's worth $5. That the booking answer is $5 and he wants every one of the 5 because she won't be keeping any of it. He calls her names I'd have to bleep into oblivion just to describe on this platform. He's telling the mother of his newborn child that she's cheap, that she's nothing, that everyone can have her for pocket change over a chat message he hallucinated a meaning into. If you're wondering what rock bottom sounds like, it sounds like a man auctioning his girlfriend's dignity on his own stream for content. And unbelievably, impossibly, that's not even the worst thing that happens in this car. Not even close. Because in the middle of this ambush, Nevaeh's phone rings. It's her father. He's been watching the stream. Imagine that for a second. Imagine being a dad and watching some man berate your daughter live on the internet days after she gave birth, and he calls to check on her, to ask what's going on. A normal human being, a man with even a thimbleful of shame, would lower his voice, would de-escalate. Blueface does the exact opposite. He takes the opportunity to tell her father, to his face, through the phone, on stream, that his daughter is, essentially, a working girl. That she wants to go do things for money. The scenario, reminder, that Blueface invented out of whole cloth 8 minutes earlier. He's now presenting his own fiction to her parent as established fact. And the dad, to his credit or maybe just out of exhaustion, doesn't take the bait. He doesn't scream. He just asks them to bring her home. Please. Just bring her home. Which, by the way, is the most quietly devastating moment of this entire stream, a father begging for his daughter to be brought home safely on a live stream while thousands of people watch. And how does Blueface respond to a father's plea? He escalates. He starts talking about how her father didn't choose this situation, she did, and she shouldn't put her father in anything. And then he says the quiet part at full volume. He tells her that when people get involved in situations like this, that's how people end up not making it out. That's how people die. He said that about her dad on a live stream while she sat next to him holding a 5-day-old baby. Stop. Just stop and sit with where we are. A man is in a car with the mother of his newborn child, telling her that if her father ever steps to him, her father might not survive it, and framing it as her fault for making her dad a topic. And then, in the very same breath, he drags up her past. He brings up the shelter. He loves bringing up the shelter. He asks her father, rhetorically, cruelly, whether he liked it when his daughter was in a shelter, and whether she was a dumb one in the shelter or a smart one. He throws a woman's lowest moment, a period of homelessness, in her face like a knife he keeps sharpened. Here's the truth he never mentions, because it ruins the weapon. When Blueface got with Nevaeh, she had her own place. He was visiting her place. Her time in a shelter was roughly a month, 30 days, maybe a little more, a hard stretch in a hard season, the kind of thing that happens to regular people every day in this economy. But in Blueface telling, she basically grew up in there, raised by the shelter, doomed to return to the shelter, because nobody loves her and nobody ever will. He takes a month of someone's survival and inflates it into a life sentence, because it's the cruelest thing in his drawer, and he reaches for it constantly. That tells you nothing about her and absolutely everything about him. And then, this is the whiplash that makes watching this man feel like a contact sport. He takes a breath, softens his voice, and announces that he's actually really cool with her dad. He thinks her dad is a great guy. He doesn't want any weirdness between them. Minutes after implying the man might not walk away from an altercation with him, he's rewriting himself as the respectful almost son-in-law who just wants peace. I don't even know what to call that. Threatening someone's father, and then eulogizing the relationship in the same monologue. The emotional range of a malfunctioning GPS recalculating. Now we arrive at the moment that broke the clip pages, the moment that will follow Blueface for the rest of his career, and, honestly, it's almost impressive. After hours of berating a postpartum woman, mocking her body, her intelligence, her past, her father, Blueface has a realization. An epiphany. He knows why he's been so irritable, so snappy, so unlike himself. He's figured it out, and he announces it to the chat with total sincerity. He is postpartum. He says the words. He says he needs therapy, but he won't go because he'd just curse out the therapist. He says postpartum is a real thing, and then he turns to Nevaeh and apologizes to her and her father, and asks her for a kiss, because he's going through postpartum right now. Do you understand what just happened? This man spent weeks telling this woman that her postpartum experience was an excuse, an attitude problem, a performance, and the second he feels a single uncomfortable emotion pass through his own body, he diagnoses himself with the condition he mocked her for having. Postpartum is real now. It's real because it's his. The condition that lives in the body of the person who physically grows and delivers a human being? Suspicious. Probably fake. Definitely an attitude. But a cranky afternoon in the passenger seat of his own ego? Call a doctor. The man is suffering. You cannot write satire this clean. Reality has left the writer's room in the dust. And the apology? The kiss? The tender self-awareness? It has a shelf life of about 30 seconds. Because right after admitting he's been wrong, right after the mea culpa, Blueface pivots directly back to attack formation. Actually, he says, on top of everything else, she's lazy. She sleeps all day. She never wakes up on time. And Nevaeh, exhausted, stitched together, running on fumes, explains that she wakes up every 2 to 3 hours to feed the newborn, which is why she's tired, which is why she falls back asleep. You know, like a mother of an infant. Like biology. Like the single most well-documented fact about newborns on the planet Earth. Blueface response? He doesn't believe her. He says he doesn't believe she woke up at 6, at 9, at 11. He announces to thousands of people that he doesn't have to deal with an infant, and then he argues that their 4-year-old is actually more of a responsibility than the 5-day-old baby. The 4-year-old. The child who can walk, talk, use a bathroom, dress himself, and fetch his own snack. More responsibility, per Blueface, than the human being who arrived on this planet less than a week ago and cannot lift his own head. And when she points out the obvious, that the baby literally can't move, can't do anything, depends on her for survival, he calls that an excuse. He says he hates that about her. The mother of his child, feeding his child on a tower loop, is running a scam. In his mind, that baby is basically a piece of decor that occasionally cries, and she's exploiting it to nap. That's the argument. That's the intellectual titan who told us earlier that all women are dumb. At this point in the footage, I had to take a walk. I'm serious. But we push forward, because you deserve the whole picture, and the next part is where the famed illusion finally, gloriously detonates. So after everything, Blueface swings back to nice. That's the cycle by now. Nice, vicious, like a pendulum powered entirely by his own whims, and the family stops for food on the way home. And remember the stakes here. Blueface can't go to restaurants. He's too famous. He'd be swarmed, bombarded, mobbed by the masses. So what happens when the most famous man in his own imagination walks into a restaurant? Absolutely nothing. Nothing happens. Not one person approaches him. Not one head turns. He sits down, eats, and leaves in total, deafening anonymity. No swarms. No bombardment. Just a guy having a meal while nobody cares, like the rest of us, like every other human on Earth. The perimeter security specialist of pediatric parking lots, completely unrecognized by the general public, he claims worships him. But wait, because the universe has a sense of humor, somebody does get recognized on the way out. It's not Blueface. It's Nevaeh. A fan spots her, lights up, and wants a picture. And not just any fan. A woman who is absolutely riding for her, hyping her up, telling her she loves her, telling off some unnamed rival on her behalf. Full energy. Full support. And Nevaeh, to her eternal credit, matches it. She's gracious, she's warm, she's taking pictures, she's having a genuine moment with someone who actually values her. And where is Blueface during Nevaeh's little spotlight? Moping. Sulking. Visibly, chemically bothered. You can see him in the background rushing toward the car, salty, deflated, because the one day he leaves the house, the public looked right past the self-declared superstar and asked his girlfriend for the photo. He cannot stand it. He cannot stand 30 seconds of being a background character in someone else's story. And the second she's back in the car, glowing from a kind interaction, he starts with the little digs. Who does she think she is? Little comments, little jabs, trying to sand down her moment. And she just deflects it. She was cute. She was nice, unbothered, gracious above it. That contrast right there is the entire story of this relationship. She gets loved on for 30 seconds, and he treats it like a security breach. He gets ignored all day and calls it fame management. You'd think the day couldn't sink lower. You'd be wrong, because now we're home, and it's time for Blueface's favorite segment, making a child cry. He gets into a little competition with Superior, his stepson, not his biological kid, and that's a detail that matters, and the whole thing is rigged from the start. He's a grown man going full contact competitive against a 4-year-old, and when the kid loses to cheating, by the way, the man cheated against a preschooler, the child starts to cry. And Blueface's response to a crying child is to laugh at him, to tell him he lost fair and square, to bask in it. The man finds genuine, audible joy in a little boy's tears, and he makes sure the camera catches all of it. And here's the observation that I cannot shake, the one that's going to keep me up tonight. Watch how he treats the children who are biologically his versus how he treats the one who isn't. I have never, not once, in hours of this footage, seen him direct even a fraction of that aggression toward his own kids. But Superior? Superior is fair game. Superior gets the roughhousing that goes too far, the competition's designed for him to lose, the mockery when the tears come. There's a specific, cold calculus happening there, this isn't really mine energy radiating off every interaction, and if you watch the clips back to back it's not subtle. It's a pattern. And children feel patterns long before they can name them. That little boy is keeping score even if nobody in that house will admit the game is rigged. Now, because this stream apparently had a humiliation quota left to fill, we arrive at the comedy portion of the evening. Blueface announces he's going to try breast milk for the first time. On camera. And he needs a chaser ready in case he doesn't like it. A chaser. For milk. The man's 4th child, by the way, 4th, and he's never tried it, which, fine, whatever, but the chaser preparation tells you he's approaching a shot of milk like it's an extreme sport. So the moment arrives, he takes it in, and instantly, immediately, theatrically, spits it out everywhere. Full rejection. Face twisted, sputtering, the whole performance, in front of everyone, while the mother of that baby watches her literal sustenance get treated like a shot of gasoline. And look, on its own it's just a clown moment, a little physical comedy, whatever. But stack it against the day we just watched. He spent hours calling this woman a lazy, worthless, $5 nothing whose body and instincts and sacrifices are all an elaborate con, and then her body produced something he couldn't keep in his mouth for 4 seconds. There's a poem in there somewhere. I won't write it. You heard it too. While Nevaeh takes the kids and puts them to bed, because of course she does, that's also her job, like everything else, Blueface decides it's time to go out. So he starts turning on every light in the house, moving as loudly as humanly possible, getting ready at maximum volume. The kids are asleep. She finally has a moment of quiet after the day from absolute hell. And his contribution to that piece is to detonate it, because sleep, apparently, is for everyone but him to protect. And the kicker, the absolute kicker, is that tomorrow morning, if anyone in that house dares to say they're tired, if anyone dares to yawn in his presence, he'll call it an excuse and activate the whole lecture circuit again. He keeps them awake and then taxes them for being tired. It's a closed loop of his own design, and everyone in that house is stuck on the ride. But here's the twist I genuinely didn't see coming, and honestly, it's the only good 15 minutes of the entire day. When Blueface wanders off, the other guys, the crew, the workers, the ones usually sprinting in to load equipment, take over the stream. And the entire atmosphere transforms. Instantly. It's like someone opened a window in a room that's been sealed for a month. They're playing music, they're dancing, they're laughing, there's a full-on dance-off happening, pure joy, zero tension, and I caught myself smiling at a Blueface stream for the first time in the history of me covering this man. That's the tell. The second he leaves the frame, the house breathes. The crew is fun. The vibe is immaculate. The problem was never the stream, the house, the women, the chat, or the fans. The problem walks around holding the camera, and the moment it walks out, sunshine. I need everyone in that comment section to sit with what that means. Because then he comes back. And you can feel it before he says a word. The temperature drops. The dancing stops being a memory. Blueface settles into frame with this heavy, brooding energy, and he tells the chat he's been thinking. Thinking hard. About that question Nevaeh asked earlier. The booking question. The one he hallucinated into a scandal. The one he used to berate her for an hour and imply her father might get hurt. He's been marinating in it, he says. And his conclusion, delivered like a man pronouncing a sentence, is that her asking that question might have just messed up her entire future. Her future. Not his behavior. Not the threats. Not the verbal abuse broadcast to thousands. Her question is the threat to her future. And that's where he leaves it. That's the cliffhanger he hangs the whole stream on, a vague, menacing implication that there will be consequences for a question he invented a meaning for. He doesn't explain. He doesn't resolve it. He just plants the dark cloud and walks off into his evening, leaving her in the house with the kids, and leaving the audience with a pit in their stomachs. Which, by the way, is not an accident. That dangling threat is doing something specific, and if you don't see the mechanism, you're the mark. So, let's break it down before we go, because this is the part everyone else covering the story completely missed. What you watched across this stream wasn't a bad day. It wasn't a man stressed from a newborn. It was a system, running exactly as designed, and once you see the cycle you can't unsee it. He opens every interaction with a promise of peace. Today will be different. Today I'm nice, so that when the explosion comes, he can claim he tried. Then he manufactures the provocation. A voicemail becomes betrayal. A booking question becomes prostitution. A baby feeding every 2 hours becomes a lazy scam. He builds a crime out of nothing, because the crime is the justification, and he needs the justification to do what he was always going to do. Then comes the punishment, the names, the $5 auction, the shelter knife, the father threat, all delivered at maximum volume into a camera, because the audience isn't an audience, it's a weapon. And then, every single time, the soft landing. The apology. The kiss. I'm cool with your dad. I have postpartum. The whiplash isn't a bug. The whiplash is the product. Because if he were cruel all the time, she'd leave, and if he were kind all the time, he'd have no content. So he alternates on a schedule, and the alternating is the cage. Psychologists have a name for this rhythm, and once you look it up, every hour of the stream will rearrange itself in your head. And the fame thing? The I can't go inside, the swarms, the bombardment? That's not paranoia, it's architecture. Every excuse he builds is a wall that keeps her doing the work while he holds the camera. He can't carry the diaper bag fame. He can't hold the door fame. He can't wake up at 6, 9, and 11. That's not his department. Meanwhile, the man walked through a restaurant in broad daylight and not one soul asked for a photo. The only person on earth who got recognized that day was the woman he calls worthless. Let that marinate. Every grandiose claim he makes about his own importance is a load-bearing wall in a structure designed to keep one exhausted woman carrying everything, literally and otherwise, while he narrates. And one more layer before we get to you, because it deserves daylight. Watch who absorbs the cost of every single one of his moods. Breakfast is late, her fault. The baby eats at night, her scam. The chat asks a question, her scandal. The restaurant ignores him, somehow her moment to be punished for. There is not one event in this entire day, not one, where the accountability arrow points at the man holding the camera. A system where one person is the permanent defendant and the other is the permanent judge isn't a relationship with problems. It's a courtroom with one seat. And she never gets to sit down. So now I need to hear from you, and I mean that this comment section matters more than usual. 3 questions, and I want real answers. First, that promise he made about not cheating until 2027, does a single person watching this believe it survives the month? Second, the moment he told her father what he told him, is that just streamer theater, or is that something a prosecutor should be watching, because I genuinely don't know anymore, and I'd love to be talked down. And third, the one I can't stop thinking about, the kids. Superior flinching through rigged games, a newborn in the next room while all of this is broadcast daily. Where's the line between content and something child services should care about, and who exactly is supposed to draw it? Answer honestly, because I read everything and this conversation is the one worth having. And think about the arithmetic of attention for a second, because it's the engine under all of this. Every outburst is clipped, every clip is monetized, every monetized clip teaches him that the cruelest version of himself is also the most profitable. He's not losing control on that stream. He's optimizing. The rage is the product, the apology is the retention hook, and the woman and the children are the set design. Once you understand that this is a business model wearing the costume of a breakdown, you stop asking why he does it and start asking who's paying him to keep doing it. And the answer, unfortunately, is everyone who watches without seeing the pattern. That's why we're doing this differently. And one more thing before I let you go. I watched all of this, every hour, every clip, every frame, so that you don't have to. Because here's the truth about this story that nobody else will tell you. The 30-second clips floating around with the breathless titles are showing you the sparks and hiding the fire. The full stream is worse. It's always worse. The pattern only becomes visible when you watch it in sequence, in full, and that's exactly what I'll keep doing here. So if you want the whole story instead of the algorithmic highlight reel, you already know what to do. Subscribe, tap the bell so you actually get notified when the next stream drops, and there will be a next stream. There always is, and like this video, because it tells the platform this coverage matters. And whatever you do, don't go anywhere, because what happened on the stream the very next morning makes everything you just heard look like the calm before the storm. The promise he made to that little boy in the kitchen, the one with the expiration date, gets tested sooner than anyone in that chat predicted, and the way it collapses tells you whether anything he said today meant a single thing. I'll be watching all of it, so you don't have to carry it. I'll see you there. Be safe out there. I love you.